A black woman is tased by police. But her military background changes the narrative. Maya Johnson was 35 years old. A proud black woman with steady eyes and a quiet strength that came from surviving more than most people could imagine. But if you looked at her on a normal afternoon, you might have seen nothing more than a woman in jeans, sneakers, and a worn Army veteran cap, picking up groceries after work. And that's the way she wanted it: simple, ordinary, peaceful. But Maya's life had never been simple. She grew up in Atlanta, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. And from the time she was a child, Maya had learned what it meant to be judged, ignored, or feared simply for being black. At 13, she was followed around a store because a clerk assumed she would steal. At 15, she was pulled aside by a teacher who told her she was too aggressive, just because she spoke confidently in class. And at 17, she was stopped by police while walking home at night, questioned about where she was going, as if she had no right to be on the sidewalk. Those memories never left her. Part of the reason she enlisted in the Army was because she thought, in uniform, maybe, just maybe, she would finally be seen as equal. In many ways she was. In the Army, she became Sergeant Maya Johnson, a soldier who kept her squad alive during 2 tours in Afghanistan, who carried injured men out of burning vehicles while gunfire rattled all around her, who learned to sleep in sandstorms and eat whatever rations she could find, and most importantly, who learned discipline, dignity, and courage. She came home with medals pinned to her chest and scars she never showed. And though civilians often thanked her for her service, she always noticed how quickly the gratitude faded when she wasn't in uniform. Back in Georgia, she started working as a youth counselor at a community center, helping troubled teens find direction, because she wanted them to believe they had a future bigger than the streets, bigger than the stereotypes, bigger than the limits placed on them by a society that often refused to see their worth. She loved that job, loved the kids, loved the hope it gave her. But still, when she walked into a store or drove through certain neighborhoods, she felt eyes on her. She felt suspicion that had nothing to do with her actions and everything to do with her skin. And on a warm summer afternoon, after a long day of helping kids with college applications and calming down a boy who nearly got into a fight, all she wanted was a quiet meal, so she stopped at a local grocery store, bought a few things: bread, chicken, some orange juice, and stepped into the parking lot with her bags in hand, never knowing that within minutes her life would change. The police car rolled through the lot slowly, its engine humming, and Maya noticed the 2 white officers inside staring at her. She tried to ignore it. She had learned over years of experience that ignoring was sometimes the only way to survive. But the car suddenly stopped, and one of them, Officer Miller, jumped out, his voice sharp and loud, cutting through the lazy afternoon air. "Ma'am, put those bags down. Step over here." Maya blinked in confusion, clutching the handles of her grocery bags. "Excuse me? What's wrong, officer?" she asked calmly, her voice steady, the way she had learned to speak to men with weapons. "Don't play games," Miller snapped, already moving closer, one hand near his holster. "We got a report of shoplifting." "You match the description." Maya frowned, her heart beginning to pound, but she forced herself to stay composed. "Sir, I paid for these groceries. You can check the receipt." She lifted the slip of paper, still stapled to one of the bags. But Miller didn't even glance at it. His eyes narrowed, his tone grew harsher. "Ma'am, drop the bags. Hands where I can see them. Around them." Shoppers began to slow down, watching, whispering, some pulling out their phones. Maya felt the heat rising in her chest, but she kept her voice even. "Officer, I am cooperating. Please don't raise your weapon. I am not a threat." But her calmness seemed to irritate him. "Turn around." "Hands behind your back," he barked. "Why?" she asked, struggling to keep her voice from shaking. "I haven't done anything." "Please, check the cameras." "Check my receipt." Miller's face twisted in anger. "Last warning," he shouted. And before Maya could move, the second officer, Daniels, rushed behind her, pulled out his taser, and fired. There was a sharp crackling sound, electricity ripping through her body. Maya screamed, her legs collapsing beneath her as pain surged through her muscles like fire. She fell hard onto the concrete, her groceries bursting open, apples rolling across the pavement. Gasps erupted from the crowd. "Oh my God." Someone yelled. "She didn't do anything." A woman cried. "She showed you the receipt," shouted another. Maya tried to breathe, tried to move, but her body wouldn't listen. Her veteran cap slid off her head, landing on the ground. Daniels and Miller grabbed her arms, cuffing her roughly, pressing her face to the concrete while she groaned. A teenage boy ran forward, picking up the cap, holding it high so everyone could see the embroidered letters. U.S. Army veteran. She's a veteran. He shouted at the officers, his voice breaking with outrage. "She fought for this country, and y'all treat her like this?" The officers froze for just a second, their eyes darting to the cap, to the phones recording them, but it was too late. The damage was done. Maya was dragged up and shoved toward the cruiser while her chest still burned from the taser. While strangers screamed at the injustice unfolding before them, while the world captured every second on camera at the station, the humiliation continued. They sat her in a cold metal chair, her hands still cuffed behind her, her body aching. Officer Miller typed up his report as if nothing unusual had happened, his tone flat, detached. "Suspect resisted arrest," he muttered as he wrote. Maya's voice was hoarse but steady. "I resisted nothing," she whispered, her throat tight with pain and anger. "I stood still. I showed you proof. The only thing I resisted was humiliation." Miller didn't respond. He didn't even look at her. And that silence was worse than his words because it told her he didn't see her as human. Then the door opened, and Captain Harris, a black officer in his 50s with sharp eyes and a heavy presence, walked in. He had already seen the video, already seen the outrage exploding online. His face was stone as he looked from Maya to the two officers. "Uncuff her." "Now," he said coldly. Miller shifted uncomfortably. "But Captain, now?" Harris cut him off, his voice like steel. Daniels moved forward, unlocking the cuffs, and the metal clinked as they fell away. Red marks ringed Maya's wrists. She flexed her hands, wincing, then looked Harris in the eye, her voice breaking for the first time. "I wore the flag on my shoulder for 8 years," she said softly. "And this is how my country sees me." Harris's jaw tightened. "I'm sorry," he said, low, almost ashamed. "This should never have happened." But apologies did nothing to erase the trauma. That night, the video hit every corner of the internet. News anchors replayed the footage of a black woman tased in broad daylight, holding nothing but groceries. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag justice for Maya. Hashtag veteran not criminal. Celebrities, veterans groups, and civil rights activists spoke out. A retired colonel who had served with her appeared on television, his voice trembling with anger. She carried fellow soldiers out of burning vehicles in Afghanistan. She saved lives. And today she was treated like a thief. That is not justice. The story spread beyond Georgia, beyond the South, beyond America. And soon a public hearing was scheduled. The officers called to account. 2 weeks later, the room was packed: journalists, activists, ordinary citizens, veterans, even teenagers from her youth center. The officers sat stiffly at the front, their uniforms pressed, their faces pale. Maya walked slowly to the microphone, wearing a plain black jacket with her medals pinned on one side. The room went silent. Cameras clicked. For a moment, she simply looked out at the crowd, at the sea of faces waiting to hear her speak. Then her voice rose, strong but trembling with emotion. "My name is Sergeant Maya Johnson. I served this country with honor. In the battlefield, there is no black or white. There is only survival. But here at home, my skin makes me suspicious. My voice makes me a threat. My very existence is seen as resistance. I was tased, humiliated, and handcuffed for buying groceries. Not because of what I did, but because of what I look like. This is not just about me. This is about every black man and woman who fears flashing lights instead of feeling protected by them. This is about children who grow up believing they are dangerous before they even grow. I am not here for pity. I am here for change, for accountability, for respect, for the truth that Black Lives Matter. Her words hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Applause broke out, then cheers, some people wiping away tears. Even some officers in the back lowered their heads in shame. The investigation ended with Miller fired, Daniels disciplined, and the department promising reforms, though Maya knew promises were fragile. Weeks later, she returned to her youth center. The kids rushed to her, hugging her, asking questions. A little girl wrapped her arms around Maya's waist and whispered, "Miss Maya, I saw you on TV. You're so brave." Maya smiled softly, her eyes misting. "I'm not brave, sweetheart," she whispered back. "I'm just tired of being silent." She looked around at the young, faces staring up at her faces that would one day face the same prejudices she had, and she knew she couldn't stop fighting. Because this wasn't just her story, it was theirs. It was every black person's story who had been judged before they were known, punished for existing. And as the sun set that evening, casting a warm glow through the windows of the youth center, Maya felt a strange mix of pain and hope. Pain for what she had endured. Hope for the fight ahead. Her story had become a spark, a reminder that racism is not always hidden. Sometimes it happens in broad daylight, in a parking lot, while holding a bag of groceries. But silence allows injustice to grow. Speaking out can spark change, and maybe, just maybe, if enough people refuse to stay silent, justice could finally begin. So the next time you see unfairness, don't look away. Don't scroll past. Don't stay silent. Because real justice begins with us.